All right. Matt, the mortgage guy. In today's video, I'm going to help you cut through the noise. If you're someone looking to buy a home in the second half of 2022, I've got good news for you. There's a lot of opportunity out there, but before you get to that opportunity, you've got to cut out a lot of noise. Noise when it comes to the housing market is crashing, inventory is up, demand is down, mortgage interest rates are up. There's honestly a lot of noise on both sides. All sunshine and rainbows on one side, doom and gloom on the other. I'm going to give you at the end of this video 3 actionable steps if you're a buyer in 2022 on what you can do specifically to help out yourself in 2022. All right, Matt, the mortgage guy here, residential mortgage broker. I make videos on YouTube as a way to just, share my experience as a mortgage broker, working with hundreds of people every single month, what I'm seeing, feeling, and hearing in the real estate market with boots on the ground, right? I'm not reading articles and stats all day long and trying to make a fancy headline is going to get you to click and have all kinds of sensational stuff to get you to stay on my videos. More of my content is going to be geared towards helping people who are looking to buy, whether it's mortgage guidelines, whether it's what I'm seeing in my market, what I'm hearing other buyers talk about in other markets, and how you can best position yourself to buy a great asset like real estate. Okay, so let's get started. First and foremost, I want to say, like I alluded to, a bunch of noise. And, I watch it as market research and it kind of cracks me up. People are so dramatic on both sides, right? Even my boy Dave Ramsey is jumping on and he's like a Super Bowl and he's pointing to every single stat. This is the thing about stats. You can make them say whatever you want, right? I agree with some of his stats, but it doesn't mean that we're not in a real estate market that is changing. And it's changing rather drastically, rather quickly is what's going to surprise some folks, right? I know that the demographics say there's more millennials in the market. There's 5 million more millennials now than there was 15 years ago. And those millennials are buyers, right? They're forming households. The data supports that, they are the demographic that's buying more houses than anybody. So that is a push up in demand, right? I also know that there's 128 million households versus 116. So there's more households out there looking to buy or rent. They need housing of some sort while there's less homes available for purchase. Like that whole supply versus demand thing, I agree with it. It's not the whole picture, right? Then on the other side, doom and gloom that talks about all these price decreases we're seeing and how crazy that is. Let me show you a quick stat just because I think this one's interesting. You can say Sacramento County, where I'm at, is seeing 35% of all listings with a price decrease, right? Sounds wild. 1 in 3 listings. Let's take a look at the last 3 years. And what do we see? Every year, seasonally, this is the speckled line is the 7-day average and the full line is the 90-day average on how many properties with a price decrease. This one's specific for my market, Sacramento. It's current as of June 22nd, which is the day I'm recording this. Seasonal, it goes up summer into fall, and then it goes down towards the beginning of the year, and then it's up seasonally. These last 2 years, I feel like, don't count when it comes to a lot of metrics. But even looking at those, you still see the seasonality. And then now, we see a fairly dramatic tip up in properties with a price decrease, but we're still not as high as we were in 2019. In 2019, do we feel like we were in some crazy market that was crashing? No, right? And so, be careful of what metrics scare you. Be careful of what things you're listening to. Another one to look at is average days on market. This is going to tell you how hot of a market you're in. Same thing where it's the last 3 years. And compared to what we've seen in 20 and 21, average days on market could quadruple. And we still wouldn't be in what you'd consider an average market, 34 and 36 are the 7-day and 90-day average here. Something tells me that's off. That might be including something that's pulling that up. Because if you look down here at the market segments, you've got, the smallest, cheapest homes, average days on market's 21, mid-sized and mid-priced homes in my market, median prices, mid 500s, mid 600s, those days on market are 14. I think at one point over the last couple of years, I got down to 10 or 11 days, average days on market, which is just flying off the shelves, right? Then the more expensive stuff is 21 days on market. If you see days on the market double, that sounds dramatic, but it's still going to be half of what is normally there. So enough with the stats. What I really want to get into is good advice for buyers in 2022. I've got 3 things that I think you should be doing as a home buyer in 2022, specifically the second half of 2022. Set yourself a clear budget. Get yourself pre-approved. And this all falls under preparation and getting pre-approved. Clear budget, get yourself pre-approved. Not only a clear monthly budget from all bills perspective, have all that stuff in line, but a monthly budget for your mortgage payment. Once you have that and you strip out all the emotion and you just tell yourself 2,700 or 2,200, 8, whatever the number is, that's the number that you're looking to get to because it's a comfortable monthly payment based on how much money you make, how secure you are in your job, what your other bills are, what the future holds for kids going to college, daycare costs, all the stuff, right? Know your number well before you're out there shopping and granite countertops make you emotional about a house, or a nice sparkling pool makes you emotional about the house. Get really dialed in. Without emotion, get yourself pre-approved. Have the lender, we do this. If you go to greatmortgagebroker.com, fill out a form, let us know where you're at, how we can help. We're happy to get you pre-approved. We're going to give you an editable Excel spreadsheet where you can put in 5% down, 10% down, and know exactly what your monthly payment is going to be and your total cash to close is going to be, so you can strategize, right? This is something that's coming up the second half of 2022. If you go out there and submit an offer with the tides turning and sellers being more apt to give concessions, you might ask for a credit that gives you, $10,000 to buy your rate down. So you might be buying your rate down to 4.875, which makes your payment fit into that budget, right? You wouldn't know that unless you're really crystal clear about your budget. So get your budget right, get yourself pre-approved, put together a game plan. Step 1. All right. Step 2, more important than ever, you have to connect with a great realtor. We're happy to connect you with one. If you've got a referral and the agent is great, sometimes a referral is just, I know an agent. You want a great agent. You just don't want any agent. And here's why. If an agent is not actively in the market, boots on the ground, know what's going on, they don't have to be doing 100 transactions a year, although those agents really, really are going to know the market by default because of how much business they do. But they need to be full-time, all the time, in the market, watching the market, studying the market. They know, right? June is way different than it was in May. May is different than it was in April. If you've got an agent who kind of part-time pays attention sometimes, and last deal they closed was February 23rd, they're going to go out there and they're going to think that the market acts and is like it was back in February. They're going to bid 670 on a listing that was listed at 600. I know this because I see this, right? Literally, this is a real life example where a buyer became the unicorn. 670 offer on a 600 listing. The joke was on the buyer because there was no other offers, right? They were the one offer this seller got. And I talked to the list side and they said, what am I going to do? I presented it to my sellers and they accepted. This buy side agent isn't very active, doesn't know the market that well, didn't even reach out to try to get information from me, which I would have had to have been truthful and say, listen, we've got some interest. We don't have any offers on the table. If that agent knew that there was no offers on the table, they're not writing at 670, right? So that's a reason why you get a great agent. And on the converse of that, a really great agent who knows exactly what's going on in the market, they find you a home, another real life example. It's been on the market for 17, 18 days, through conversations with the list side, not a lot of action. I've got a motivated seller. Let's put a deal together. It's listed at $399, wrote at $350. And guess what? Got an accepted offer at $350. So 2 different examples, one overpaid, one got a deal. It was because the agent was a great agent in one case and a not so great agent in the other. So step 2 is get yourself connected with a great agent. We're happy to introduce you. Other mortgage brokers across the country, I'm sure, have great agents they can refer you to. It might be a family or friend who's had a great experience. Keep in mind, though, nice person doesn't always equal great agent. So maybe somebody from church or from Little League or from the neighborhood is like, oh, that person has a real estate license. Having license, being great, those things do not always go together. So great agent is number 2. Finally, number 3, as a buyer, know your market. I think we're in and at least entering the second half of 2022. In most markets, you're going to be able to take your time to a certain extent. Listed on Thursday, you don't have to have an offer in by Friday at noon. That's an old market. We're coming out of that, thankfully for the buyers that I work with and their agent representatives. I'm glad we're not in such a rushed market. You can take your time, you know your market, you watch your market. And another great piece of advice that I see people who I think are winning are they're not afraid to look at a stale listing, to look at something that's been on the market for 17, 21, or 25 days. If you don't care about price and you just want something pretty and price isn't anything, well, then more power to you, right? In some ways, on some things, I may be like that sometimes where it's like, I like it. I'm not price sensitive. Let's get it. But if you're looking to get into a home and you're looking to get the best price, 21 days old, 25 days old, not shiny, not completely remodeled, you're more likely to get a deal. And when it's been on the market that long, in a market like we're in, you're going to see more sellers freaking out. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. I got another story. If I had more time, I'd tell it about a flipper who had a home listed at a certain price. And rather than gradually come down and accept something, they just slashed the price a lot, took less than they probably needed to just to get out of the deal, right? You're going to see more of that stuff coming up. And so look at those older stale listings if you can. Watch your market, know your market, study your market so that when something comes up, you have an idea. Okay, this thing is priced pretty aggressive. This thing might sell within the first couple of weeks. We want to go take a look at it. You might see something else and say, listen, this one's priced way too high. I know this thing's going to sit because I've watched my market and I know something in that condition on that street, that size, at that price is not going to sell fast, right? I can wait 2 weeks, let them feel a little pain and come in with an offer, right? Talk with your agent about that stuff. A great agent is going to be able to really steer you correct on that and say, no, we can't wait. This one's priced aggressive. I talked to the agent. They've got some interested parties. They're trying to get it in contract by Friday and move to Idaho. Each house is different, right? And on that note about knowing your market, maybe conceding on some stuff and looking at something that might need a little bit of work. The 80-10-10 rule, I've talked about it before. 80% what you're looking for, 10% you can change, and 10% you can learn to live with. Some buyers, unfortunately, over the last couple of years that I've worked with have just been searching far too long for the very perfect house, right? More than likely, you're not buying a house you're going to stay in for the next 50 or 60 years. You can always upgrade, downgrade, trade in, whatever you want to do in the future. So sometimes analysis paralysis or searching for the perfect house can be to your detriment, right? So 80% of what you're looking for, 10% you can change, and 10% you can learn to live with. That step number 3 is knowing your market and having some flexibility within that, right? So that's that. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me and my team know if we can help. Go to greatmortgagebroker.com, fill out the form, let us know where you're at, how we can help. We'll be in touch. Hopefully this was helpful. Opportunity abound the second half of 2022. Sellers still have the upper hand. And let me see if I can find this. Altos Research, I got to shout them out because they do a great job. That's got this barometer based on market action, right? And here's the barometer. We got to get all the way down to 30 for it to be a buyer's market. We're still at 80, which is a seller's market. But I bet you we come back and check this barometer in July and August, it's going to start shifting back. It already is. It already feels like less offers. It already feels like buyers in certain markets, in certain circumstances, are going to have a little bit of leverage. So I look forward to it. All right. Until next time, we gonna see.